moving on to day 3. So the reserve corps finally come in. You get 14 units in both of them, since it costs you a supply. So I have a full artillery corps and then sort of mishmash. In this corps you only get 5 units and everything else is just buffer. You get just about everything in your center corps. You can see I'm very artillery heavy. The infantry is really not going to do a whole lot. And then for your last corps, you only get 11 or 12 units, but you need the full corps filled out to be able to get those. So those last 2 divisions really aren't combat worthy, but they aren't going to be showing up. So we're facing 162 guns, only 27,000 soldiers. Behind very good fortifications though, so we're not really going to actually go after them too much. I don't really care about the infantry, I just want the good cannon that are available. The setup phase is obnoxious. They start you nice in the open where the enemy artillery can see you. So I'm setting that sniper unit up to spot, and my general layout is I'm going to have an artillery force north in the city to hit units up there. I will have a center force sort of in the wheat field. And this is one of the cases where having long-range counter-battery artillery with the stealth perk pays off. That sniper unit's going over to spot. So if I don't have the stealth perk, I can't go into that field. I will be visible and take a lot of damage very quickly. But if I do have the perk, then I can get units there, which is very nice since the 20-pounders and 14-pounder will just do even better if you can get them close. So I'm sending a few infantry up and around, just in case sometimes the AI decides to sort of sally out and you want to make sure you have something there if you need it. But those units are mostly just going to sit there. My cheap skirmishers are going to run across the field. They'll be hidden once they get to that back into the wheat field. I bring multiple, both to fill out slots and because sometimes the artillery will focus them and they'll rout before they get there. But once you get them in there, then you have the vision point for the rest of the battle. Don't have to worry about it. Bring the 24-pounders down around. Going to bring them up into the woods next to the round top. There's basically no units down there. I'm not sure if it's because I destroyed so much but it seems like anything that starts down there wants to move north anyways. So it's really easy to flank the position and take it from there. And I'll just line up the entire mass of the artillery corps and slowly start pounding away at anything I can see. Snipers are also going to be going over there. Vision around that point is kind of weird. So we take some losses on the 24-pounders. Skirmishers get in with only 1 volley, so that's not the last of the casualties I'm going to take in this battle, but it's close. Well, outside of the cavalry on day 4, but we'll get there. We'll get to that mess when we get there. So it's kind of debatable if going to day 3 is really worthwhile. I'd say if you're having trouble winning on day 2 with the round tops without too large of losses, it might be worth largely skipping that and just staying on the board edge and trying to take South Cemetery Ridge here, just because I'm not sure how it works out if you haven't destroyed as much, but I think it'd probably be pretty easy to take that point, and the VP area is very large, so it would not be that hard to get up there with infantry and just mass charge it, then hold it from there, because a huge chunk of the Union force is sitting in the fortifications and will never move. You'd probably take a lot of artillery fire doing it, but so between the sniper on the right hill and the sniper on the left, I can actually see the artillery in the fortifications up there. The sniper on the left is probably the more important one. That one has 2 spotting perks, which I think is required to function there. I don't know if the enemy artillery has stealth perks in that area. That might complicate things. If you can't see the artillery, focusing on the infantry unit right in front that one artillery battery that I'm shooting at will let you do collateral damage to at least one of the batteries, and that can work. Though it's very slow. Fortifications here are great. Even with 100 or more guns firing on a single artillery unit, it takes a while to drop them down. So, slowly starting to get in position. And once I get there, the entire day is pretty much just going to be slowly sliding snipers forward and seeing artillery and telling all my artillery to attack it, and then repeating. I just realized that the 14-pounders are blinking in and out of vision there. We should have moved them back slightly so that isn't happening. I don't think I take any losses with them, but that sort of thing is real dangerous. Leads to artillery fire and on a unit that I can't get any replacements for, and sometimes we'll get the AI charging you or something. Perhaps it would have been worthwhile to bring out infantry to try and pull charges in one direction or another, but the artillery is so numerous and so good that any unit standing out there doing that is going to take a lot of damage. So I just don't think that's worthwhile until you clear it out. That's more of a day 4 thing. Vision up in that town is a little iffy. Sometimes you have to move farther back so you don't get seen. So starting to move skirmishers up into that little house there. You can usually get vision behind the victory point. The thing is, what's really tricky is that victory point area is huge. It must be doing some sort of HP calculation to determine who gets it. But once you start pushing Union units north of those 2 fields, north of the victory point, you will start to capture the point even if you're pretty much where my units are now. Which, if that wasn't the case, or if we weren't going to day 4, you'd probably, I don't know. I was going to say it'd probably be best to just roll up the entire line with infantry, but it takes most of day 3 to get all that artillery down, and if you're rolling up with infantry, you're going to walk into a lot of canister doing that, so I'm not sure if that's really worthwhile either. And then on day 4, I would do it, but the battle pretty much ends as soon as you start capturing, as soon as that contested flag ends. So it'd be nice to get all the infantry, but it's just prohibitively difficult because of the way that flag works. And that bottom entrenchment, the bottom of the stone wall, is really solid. Like, the amount of fire I can put into that position and not have it rout is a little ridiculous. And I don't know, if you could get that to rout, and then maybe you could bring infantry up through there, like maybe if you attack with infantry through there on day 4, you could manage to do it. This is the first time I've tried this a couple of times just to try and find the vision points, and I've never had the AI send a unit after the skirmishers up there. So, of course, when I do the recording, they decide to do something new. Right, the 20-pounders took a little bit of damage because I crossed the open field as opposed to giving them a path through through both wheat fields, so they wouldn't be visible. So, small optimization there, but did lose guns, big deal. So I'm going to try leaving them there for a while. It doesn't really work out. Thankfully, I don't really need that location because of my good spotting snipers on the left side of the line that sees most of my need. And I get pretty lucky here where I get good vision with those skirmishers in the corner. Depending on where the units are up there, you have trouble seeing stuff. If it isn't obvious, you would burn a ton of supply doing this extended strategy. That's why I started with almost 170k, and I will be basically out. I will not be able to completely refill on day 4. So at this point I'm trading supply cost for experience and weapons. Which I think overall works out pretty well. There's a glitch I use at the end of day 4 to sort of recap some of those costs. Which if you aren't going to use that glitch, I would say do not play day 4. It's just not worth it. So, got one unit of artillery, they move some more up. Those snipers are going to be out of ammo. There's no way I can get a supply wagon to them reasonably, and they're more there for spotting, and they're at max stats anyways. Might as well let them grind away at the wall. No real... So I finally noticed that something's getting hit up here, so I move a couple of units back. Didn't look like I took too much damage, but I just don't want to be taking additional casualties or give units an excuse to walk up there, so... I guess I could turn those snipers off and let their condition recover and then let them fire again. That'd certainly be the safer option, but I just don't think anything's going to come after me, so I'm not too worried about it. Done a pretty good job on the artillery. There's only a few units left. But there's still a couple of them that are hidden back there, so I don't want to move anything up. Like what I did at Culp's Hill, where I knew there was almost no artillery and it would be firing at other stuff, so I started moving it up. So you can see there, I'm already starting to capture the point, and even though I'm really nowhere near it. So now I'm going to have to move the skirmishers up and get them to charge me to come back down to recapture the point, because they won't do that otherwise. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But you can see, if you wanted to win this way, it's very, very easy. I don't even think you need good snipers to be able to do this. Even if you hadn't been able to, you could just walk up with infantry and do the same thing, more or less. So take some losses on the rookie unit, but they capture the flag back, which is really what we want. And we still can see some artillery for some reason, but just extra bonus. So I think one thing I forgot to mention with the Culp's Hill phase, the day 3 part of that phase, unlike day 1, you don't get the full 22 units, you only get the 14. So you could shift a couple of units. I think you... I don't remember exactly. It's still a percentage, so you might need... I think you need something like 15 or 20 units there to get it. Maybe it's 20. I don't recall. But, so you don't need the full 24 in there, I'm pretty sure, to get the maximum amount of units there, if for whatever reason you are a little short. So my goal at the end of day 3 is to try and have all of my cannon full, because you don't get an ammo refresh on day 4, and I don't plan to bring a full amount of supply back on day 4. I'm going to bring a relatively small amount. So optimally, I have the snipers and the artillery all full, so that the supply already paid for sustains me through the battle longer. That turns out to be more useful if you don't end the battle a little earlier. I do end up ending a little early, so I don't think I make full use of that money, but potentially you fill everything up, go to day 4, set your supply to 0, so you get back the money that you would have otherwise spent going into day 4, and then your units can still fire for, 20-30 minutes, do some extra casualties, and then call it a day. Because if capturing, at this point, capturing the South Cemetery on day 4 is going to be trivial. If I remember right, I do it basically by accident. Maybe I should be moving the snipers up, but I really don't want to trip that flag again now that we're past the finish marker. There's some extra time. I don't remember exactly how long it is. But doing well. Got almost all their artillery. I think there's, in addition to those two, there's maybe one more unit left somewhere. I've tried sneaking units further than what I've done, where that 5.6 TS is on the port edge. You can sneak units up, but vision gets real iffy in there, and a lot of the times that infantry ends up... I guess one of two things happens. You either bait a bunch of charges, and then have to go backwards and lose vision again, or you start capturing the flag, at which point you have to intend, if you haven't tripped a charge, you have to trip it so you get the flag back. If you could get all the way back in there, like if you could get to like north of the field, the trees there without being seen, then I think you would have vision of most of the area and be set. But I've never been able to pull that off really successfully. You could try moving in force, but I think if you brought infantry back there, you'd cap the flag on the way and you'd never get hidden again, so I don't think that works. Maybe you could try moving infantry into the fields, fighting off, making everything retreat, then drop a skirmisher, retreat all your infantry, send the skirmisher out, and then bait charges to get them back there. But that's pretty complicated and failure prone, so I doubt that's worth the effort. But as you can see, like, I'm not going to get all the infantry, but most of those units are really beat up. I should probably be doing a little bit more targeting with the artillery to hit units that aren't in fortifications. I get bored at this point and start grabbing infantry and just telling them to walk places to level their stamina trait. Theoretically could have been doing that for most of the battle. Units are in pretty good shape, so I'm not concerned to going to those lengths. But this is definitely why I chose to do these videos sped up, just because I'm barely doing anything. There's not a lot going on. You're just waiting for units to die under artillery fire. So hopefully this works out. Any feedback on this sort of editing is appreciated. Not something I do a whole lot of or am particularly good at, but hopefully it works out. So that unit coming down was pretty convenient, just because the flag was starting to dim again. Finally blew that unit away with the snipers. Might be able to get a different target, but it's just, I think the timer's almost up, so it's not really worthwhile. We've got one unit of artillery that we haven't gotten, so we've done really well. Sometimes it tends to sit up more in the hidden areas and you can't get to it, but you can see they're down to 40 guns. They gained a few men on day 4, but not a whole lot. I think these are and I think a lot of the men they gain are the remnants of the round top attack. So like you'll see Chamberlain and Vincent show up again. So I changed my units around again because the deploys are a little different. On day 4, you get the full of all the reserve corps. You also, let's see, you get your full center corps. From the left corps, you still only get 5, but you only have to have 12. Or no, that's the same as day 3. So yeah, you only need 12 units and you get 5 there. And the right corps, you can get up to 17, but you need, compared to day 3, where you only get 11, but you need 24 units in it. So after some shifting around, we go back and have to go through the setup process again, because at least you don't get deployed in horrible places. But you can see the artillery corps shows up in a different place this time, but that's fine. There's more targets down here anyways, and I don't have to worry about cavalry ghosting its way through my lines and running into the artillery. You can see I didn't quite manage to keep all of them, get all of them refilled. Oh right, that was the other point. Sorry, I skipped over it. So I only took 10,000 supply in for each unit, for each corps. That's because I really wouldn't, if I had the choice, I just wouldn't have restocked for today. It is a bit of an exploit because what's going to happen is I get all the money that I got back from going down to 10,000, and that goes into my, I guess, inventory. But then when this battle ends, the game thinks what my supply should be is 35k because that's what it was at the start of the battle. So I'm basically sort of getting that resupply for free. So getting a little bit of the money back that I spent on all this artillery barrage. So again, if you're not using that, I probably wouldn't go to day 4. It's certainly not with how well I did in that last phase, where I got them down to 40 guns. I don't think, if I'd been playing with Recon 4 and had known that, I probably would have just capped the flag and called it good. So pretty much the same setup. The only difference is this time we have to worry about the cavalry coming in. So I'm going to set up a line to the bottom. You do have to pay attention because the AI units will come out after anything they can see. So you do need to have some infantry around just in case you accidentally trigger them coming out, which we will see happening in a little bit. With the cavalry, there's a couple different options. They have very good weapons. They're all 3-star. I've tried ambushing them. I don't think it's worth it. Maybe if you play on half speed and pause a whole lot and completely micromanage it, you can get away with it. But I found that, in general, every time those units fire, you take 100 to 200 casualties. Because you're down out there in the open, and they hit pretty hard. So, like, on another attempt, I set up a complete line of infantry against the entire bottom of the map, had skirmishers out to absorb fire and everything, and I probably took 1,500 to 2,000 casualties in the space of 10 minutes, with most of those units spending most of that time routing. Like, 1 or 2 units get free and do like 1,000 kills each. So in this one, I just don't mess with it. I pull all my units back, put them in the trees, so if any cavalry does come after them, they'll have cover. So they should win that exchange, even though it's still not great. There's this one unit, Neil. I suspect if you have not killed as many as I have so far, more units will spawn out here. But thankfully there's only this one, and then some on the round tops, which immediately leave that position. And I'm not really sure if that's normal. Maybe if more units are intact, that is not the case. But I assume what the AI logic is, or the way the AI logic is programmed, is that you have to have units in those fortifications. So all of these free units who would normally be able to do something else run up to the ridge to get into fortifications. There's some that are still free roaming and come in and attack, and like if you have units that are visible north in Gettysburg itself, they'll walk across the entire map to come attack them. So I don't really know what's going on there, but so set up the giant firing line. I'm not paying too much attention because I don't see any artillery at the moment. Just I know I'm not going to do a lot of damage. Because most of them are 10-pounders that aren't particularly experienced or have perks or anything like that. So just farming stats. Sending the cavalry in now that unit's routed to get rid of it. Sadly, don't get any surrenders. I want to say I run down 5 or 6 infantry units over the course of this battle and don't get a single surrender, which is rather disappointing. The extra men would be useful. My infantry line is probably overkill, but I'm sort of layering it a little bit because I don't want to, if I was expecting to play this out a little longer than I do, so I just don't want to have to deal with ghost cavalry too much. And I don't know if double thick lines actually helps with that or not. It probably doesn't. I've seen them run through those before. But if it helps at all, probably worth it. Alright, a really fun bug that I found while testing. So I wanted to see, I was comparing how much, what my kill ratios would look like. Alright, this. I don't know what that unit was doing out there, but that's really bad, so sort of go into crisis mode and grab any unit that's anywhere nearby and charge them over there to try and save my very expensive snipers. Thankfully I had that unit of skirmishers there. I think the combination of that and the poor terrain that they were charging across of, I think saved me there. Also, I happened to go there at the right time. I think I heard the charge and went looking. So I managed to get out without even taking a volley. Alright, so the bug. So I was retreating my entire force just to see what the kill ratio would look like from doing day 3 versus day 4. And I had one unit that apparently didn't get the message and decided to route northeast. So he routed directly through the center of the Union line, ran all the way through the entirety of Cemetery Ridge, and then ran through the line on the north end of Cemetery Hill to escape. He took like 200 casualties the entire trip. I have no idea how that happened. If I could ever figure out how to do that reliably, it would probably be the best way to take the hill ever, because the AI units largely didn't fire at him for whatever reason. Sadly, that did get recorded. It was quite entertaining to see at the time. So, anyways, back to the battle. So those units pushed out, so I could do some damage to them there. I'd probably rather have them all up north doing what these guys are doing, just walking into a hail of artillery fire. The 3-inch cannon are there to hopefully convince some infantry units to walk out towards them, and then I just flank them when they do. End up being far enough back, doesn't really happen, and the battle ends a little early, but figured I'd get them in range where they could fire a little bit, move their stats up a little bit. I wasn't going to spend any supply on them, so figured might as well. Finally got that sniper back in position. He started pretty far away from where I wanted him. And now I'm bringing the cavalry over to go after the 2 cannon that spawn. And this is where chasing that unit all the way across that hill gets me, because they're all about half condition. I think it results in killing these guys a little slow. So we get rid of them. Get rid of the... I have to go manage some other stuff, but we see some artillery. But we get the first unit, and then as we're cleaning up the second unit, a bit of a disaster happens, but we'll see that in a second. Just bringing the snipers up to work on those small units. So you can see I've captured the flag, and I'm not even remotely near it. So pull those out, there you go, and click away. And then Farnsworth shows up and spawns directly on top of me. And you can just watch what that fire does. So I probably lose 400 or 500 cavalry in 10 seconds. Not even 10 seconds, in a few seconds. If that artillery had decided to retreat to the left as opposed to the right, I probably would have been far enough away that doesn't happen. If I hadn't chased that infantry unit all over creation and was in better condition, I might have managed to do it. But it is what it is. Considering everything else, it's pretty minor. I mean, it's expensive, but I don't use the cavalry a whole lot anymore, so I don't know if I'll even restore them. But there we go. That's Gettysburg on day 4. We lost 8,899, and we get 1,780 of that back, so we only lost about, let's see, what is that? I think it's 7,119. And we killed 64,285, so that's about a 9-to-1 ratio. You can see those couple of cannon did by far the most. I think at least one of those, some of those must have been the ones on Cemetery Hill on day 1, and I think the others were on at the round tops, the 2 I couldn't get to, because they have some losses on them. Because those top 2, I think those top 2 are the round tops, because I wasn't able to kill them off. And then you can see couple of those cavalry units are up there, and they were on the field for 15 seconds. Other than that, kept everything else pretty low, which means they weren't shooting at us very much. So, very good result for Gettysburg, even with going to 4 days. Officers isn't really useful because it only shows you the last day stuff and the promotions. Snipers did well, a couple of infantry units did well. Gonna see a lot of artillery and stuff up here. Over 1,000 kills for a 10-pounder unit is not something you see very often. Yeah, 24-pounders are a little low, but honestly I didn't use them a whole lot. They just, other than Little Round Top, that's the only place where I really had them in position to do a lot of damage. Otherwise they were just firing at units and fortifications most of the time. Yeah, and now we're into the units that basically didn't fight or just showed up to put in a token appearance. Yeah, and now for the goods, we got 22 20-pound parrots, which is fantastic, and then a lot of 1863s and 1861s, a couple 24-pounders, a couple of supplies, a few Harper's Ferries, which is always nice. Didn't really get many Spencers, but we didn't fight the cavalry. 51 Whitworths, which is very nice. I think there were more on the field, but I wasn't able to get that sniper unit. There was definitely a JF Brown unit that I didn't kill off, but I wasn't going to get enough of those anyways to really matter. So, that was a long battle. There are definitely shorter ways to do it, but we ended up coming out positive in terms of recruits, so growing the army slightly and got lots of good weapons. Yeah, we would have gotten an even better ratio if we hadn't lost that cavalry at the end, but overall these units are in pretty good shape, and you can see we got a lot of good XP gain on these units. Like, these are all going to get disbanded, but you know, we're dumping men back in with almost, some cases, close to 2-star unit stats. So, and overall, the infantry is in really good shape. Like, a lot of these guys are still over 1,100, just because you don't do a lot with infantry in this battle, other than day 1 and day 2. Cavalry is not in good shape. I'm seriously considering dropping those 3 stars back down to 2 stars and just calling it good. I don't. Third perk is nice. I've got it assigned already, but it's too much. It just costs too much, and then any role I use them in, they take too many losses. So I might end up doing that. Yeah, didn't get too many promotions, but we're very close with a lot of units. So I think we're going to be able to get some out of there. Like those snipers, give them a better unit or a better officer, and you can probably get them up there. Not sure too many more training opportunities we're going to have, but we'll see what we can manage. A couple of these units I think these are the units from Little Round Top that got real beat up, but they're in pretty good shape, so we can just dump them back into, recruits back into them, and they'll be fine. Artillery all did really well. Hopefully I can finally get some 3-star units with the accuracy at tier 2. Should have started farming that a little earlier, but certainly with those units in the wheat field, I don't regret having the stealth perk on several of them. Yeah, I think a lot of what I farmed was morale, not stamina or firearms in a lot of these units, which is a little unfortunate, but hey, high morale makes those rookie units with muskets last in melee a little bit longer. So, and we took very few losses on the scoped Whitworths for a change, which is very nice. It's sort of change of pace. Yeah, so even with, we probably took 2,000 to 3,000 extra casualties than we really needed to, but we dropped them down to the absolute minimum, prevented stuff from going up too much. So that was several different ways to win Gettysburg. Take your pick. Thank you for watching, and that was a long video, but hope you enjoyed, and, well, till next time.